The 12-team college football playoff didn't start in 2024. It started in 2014. Any team between those years of 2014 and 2023 that resided in the SEC made the postseason. Dave, who were the three most dangerous rosters that could have made noise and actually punched their ticket to a national championship if given the current status where the format was you had just basically the 8 seed, but you had an easier path to go towards the national championship?
So again, to clarify, any of these teams, I have 3 that from 14 till this past year I could put in it did not make the 12-team playoff or the
14 to this past year could have, if they made it in, would have been a dangerous threat to go to the national championship.
Dude,
start with number 3, work your way to 1.
Yeah, I didn't really put them in any specific order, but I can do it. Here we go. 2023, this isn't me ranking them in any order, but I'll throw one of these teams out there. 2023 Georgia. I'm going to go 2023 Georgia. Again, their only loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game. You could make an argument. They were probably one of the better teams, if not a top 2 team in the sport. Just had one blemish against Alabama. Just a tough year, tough break. Because, again, you had a one-loss Texas who just won the Big 12. You had Alabama who just won the SEC and beat you head-to-head. So I don't know how you could have put Georgia in ahead of Alabama. And obviously, you had Washington and Florida State taking care of business then too. So it was just Washington and Michigan take care of business. So it was a tough break, but you easily could have made a case Georgia getting into that. They definitely would have been in a 12-team playoff and probably would have been in the semifinals if they could have got that far too. I think that team was way better than this team they had this year. So a tough break for Georgia there. That's one of the teams that came to mind for me as well.
I want to give an honorable mention because I don't know if they would have made it, but here's the thing. I do believe that this team belonged in the college football playoff to begin with. It was the 2020 Texas A&M roster. They lost one game.
Too.
They were one game away. They lost to They lost to the national championship in week 2. They had a game that was removed off of their schedule against Ole Miss because of the COVID-19 policy. Remember, you had 1 week to be able to reschedule games, and if you couldn't reschedule it, you were done. That was just it. They finished 8-1. They took their frustrations out on North Carolina, and they went 9-1. That team should have been in my opinion, over either Notre Dame, over Clemson, or over Ohio State. They weren't. They're an honorable mention.
And Bear, I didn't put them in because I kind of was trying to put teams in that I thought could have won the thing. And I was like, I mean, A&M could have got in, but I was like, you're right. It's deserving of a mention. But I was like, we already saw them play. I don't think anybody was beating 2020 Alabama that year.
For me, the 2015 Ole Miss Rebels, I think
I have them high. That's my one, spoiler alert.
Okay, so the 2015 Ole Miss Rebels were my number 3. They had a dynamic offense headlined by Chad Kelly with Laquan Treadwell. They beat Alabama that year. On top of that, they also had
the Kimdichie brothers.
Yep, they had the Kimdichie brothers. They had a solid secondary overall. They just lost too many games to where they were knocked out. But honestly, the fact they were able to hold their own against Alabama, I love their quarterback play. Something about Chad Kelly and that rushing attack and his mobility to be able to make second chance opportunities, I thought was a wonder. You put them in the right format, they easily, I think, could have at least made a run to the semifinals and maybe even the national championship.
What they do, but they went to the Sugar Bowl, beat Oklahoma State.
Sugar Bowl, and they beat Oklahoma State.
This was the one they win the West for if it wasn't for 4th and 25 against Arkansas. That was that season. They win the West.
They win the West and they're in the playoff potentially.
And I think they beat Florida. And they're probably right. That team's in the playoffs. That's an underrated team people don't really talk about a lot. Next up for me, this is another team. People may call me crazy for this one. Little biased, helped build this roster. But the 17 Auburn team to me, if they were healthy down the stretch, that team to me, that was the year Alabama, 2nd and 26, ultimately ended up winning it all after losing to Auburn in the regular season. This was an Auburn team that finished 10-3. Again, went 10-2 in the regular season. Lost at Clemson early. Lost at LSU. They blew a 14-point lead, and then they finished the year beating Georgia 40-17 at Jordan-Hare, beat Alabama 26-14 in the regular season, then lost their rematch to Georgia in the SEC championship playoff spot on the line in that one. Just they were banged up. Cam Petway, Kerryon Johnson just could not. Gus ran them into the ground. I think if they're healthy with Jarrett Stidham, Darius Slayton, the guys they had on that defense, Marlon Davidson, Derek Brown, big guys, that was a really good defense there. KJ Brett. You had a lot of dudes there playing the NFL now, all that secondary. I think that team's healthy going in against Georgia. I think they could have beat Georgia again, and ultimately Bama went on to win the national championship. I got 17 Auburn, one of the more underrated teams. They could have stayed healthy down the stretch.
20, what is it? Why am I blanking? Which one is it? 2019. Yeah, 2019 Georgia. To me, I thought was a really good team. They won against Cincinnati. Jaden Dang. Was that the Cincinnati year?
Field goal. They beat them in the Peach Bowl in a field goal. Cincinnati should have won that game.
Yeah. What was it? 2019, 2020. The LSU.
It was the 2019 season. Yeah.
Yeah, the LSU season. I personally just believe when you look at that team, they were great offensively. They had 5 All-American defensive players. Really well put together. Again, they just ran out of juice at the last second.
See, I think the 19 Bama team was better than 19 Georgia. I remember that was like when they changed OCs with James Coley because they were not explosive at all with James. Yeah,
but that was the year that Alabama, I think, finished 10-2. And
Tua got hurt. Yeah,
Bama. They went to what's it called? Not the ReliaQuest Bowl.
Yeah, it's Citrus Bowl. They beat Michigan.
Citrus Bowl. So it was a ReliaQuest. Yeah, so it was a ReliaQuest Bowl. But there was just something about that Georgia team. That was a team that I thought was good enough to be able to win it all.
And we already mentioned this team. I go to depth. 2015 Ole Miss was the other one. Honorable mentions. I had 2022 Alabama just missing the playoffs. Some people thought they should have got in over TCU. That was that Bryce Young's last year, Will Anderson's last year, all those guys. That was a really good team. They dropped 2 games, though, to Tennessee and LSU that year. They had their chances. They probably were the 3rd best team in the country that year behind Georgia and Ohio State. But I think they could have beat those teams on a given day as well. And I threw in randomly this year, Bear. I threw in 2024 Ole Miss. I thought we got Ole Miss twice in the season as an honorable mention for Ole Miss this year. I think Ole Miss could have made it to the semis if they would have got an opportunity to get in. I know you were high on them as well. I just wanted to throw them in there as well.
Do me a favor. Put Ole Miss in Penn State's spot. Do they not beat Boise State and SMU?
Yes.
Yes. Put them in. To
be honest, too, Bear. When Notre Dame's quarter, when Riley Leonard went down, Ole Miss would have taken advantage of that against Notre Dame.
Imagine if it was the bracket, what was it? If it was Texas versus Ole Miss, they were the 12 seed. Could they at least have put up points against Texas with that offense? Healthy Trey Harris.
They could have, yeah.
I don't know if they would have won it, but I think they would have. I agree with you. Depending on the matchup, they would have been. Can I actually switch mine to 2022 Alabama at number 2? I forgot how good that team was, but Bryce Young, Will Anderson. Honestly, Will Anderson should have been a Heisman finalist in 2021 for his efforts. Should have been it in 2022. But for me, number 1, 2023 Georgia. Sorry, they lose 1 game in the conference championship. They handle business. I understand their schedule was relaxed, but still, they found a way to come back and beat Auburn. You nearly beat Alabama and get the comeback in that game. And you're telling me that you drop all the way down to the number 6 seed? Like, I'm not even mad that they were left out of the college football playoff. I am more mad, and I've been mad, and I've gotten in arguments with Dave and Chris about this, that they justifiably said 1-6, and we were all just supposed to be okay with it. Like, you were the number 1 team on a Saturday, and then just to show face, you say, well, Florida State was undefeated, so we're going to put them at number 5. And then they dismantle Florida State, regardless of how many opt-outs that either side had. I thought that team was good enough to win a national championship. Honestly, if you put them in the field as the 4 seed, they may end up beating Michigan. They may end up going to the national championship and beating a team like Washington. That's how good I think about them.
No, I totally agree with you, man. I had them at 3. I think we hit a lot of other teams. I'm trying to think any other teams we would have missed, Bear, from 14.
2017 Auburn was one that I think that I missed on. I didn't consider them.
Because I'm thinking 14, the SEC, 14, 15, the SEC really weren't like, Florida was winning the East. I mean, that wasn't a phenomenal time. 16, I mean, Auburn.
You know what would have been interesting? Seeing Dan Mullen in 2020 with that Kyle Trask-led team. Would they have made some noise?
Yeah, or they had the old shoe game against LSU. It kind of knocked their momentum off. But you're right. I mean, they took Bama down to the wire. That was a really good team. I agree with you.
That was one that I think maybe at least could have been in the conversation, like from the outside looking in. But let us know in the comment section down below. Who were your 3 teams in the last decade plus that could have made the college football playoff and at least gone on to a run to the semifinals? When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. Even if you miss the first few minutes of a game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, You can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet win. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino and 18 plus in DC. First online real money wagers only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issues with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.